What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 12, Episode 12. So we are still at Diana's Christmas party. Kathy meets Sheree, Sheree being Garcelle's really good friend and also the ex-wife of Will Smith. Kathy swears up and down that her and Sheree have met before. Sheree's like, no, we've never met, but it is very nice meeting you, but I don't think we've ever met. And Kathy says, well, I never forget a face, so I know that we've met before. And then they show us a flashback scene of Kathy mistaking Garcelle for her own sister, Kyle. So she's never forgotten a face, but she forgot the face of her own sister because she thought Garcelle was her sister. Moving on from there, Asher, Diana's boyfriend. Okay, let's talk about Asher and Diana. Asher and Diana. Okay, look, some of these May December romances work. And maybe this one is working as far as like the dynamic of the relationship. It's probably working extremely well, but I cannot get over how Asher looks like Diana's son. Asher looks so young. So young. I think I'm younger than Diana, and I'd feel some kind of way walking down the street with a guy who looked as young as Asher does. However old Asher is, he probably looks about 5 years younger than that. He just looks really young. Even when he's not standing next to Diana, he looks really young. And when he is standing with Diana, he just looks like Diana's son. And this works both ways, like if a guy who's extremely older than, for example, like Erika and her own husband, Mr. Girardi, that whole dynamic right there. Obviously, Erika looked like his daughter, didn't look like his wife, but whatever. If it works, it works. But Asher he looks so much younger than he actually is. And it's just crazy to me how young Asher looks. So Asher gives us a rendition of Oh Holy Night. I think it was Oh Holy Night. He sings the song in front of everybody. He did a very good job singing the song, but because Erika was so lit, she, made it into a duet. And so she was singing right along with them, completely off key. She made a real spectacle of herself. And it was really embarrassing. It was so embarrassing because we have, this beautiful evening. Everybody's dressed really nice. And then you have this, young man with this, really nice voice who gets up and sings this beautiful Christmas carol. And then here comes Erika and she ruins it all. Like, I was really getting into Asher's performance. I was like sucked in and I was enjoying it. And then here comes Erika and she completely ruins it. And Diana should have had like secret security guard over there who would have like, very, expeditiously but gently remove Erika from the scene so that we can enjoy this beautiful solo. But I was so mad at Erika. I was so mad at Erika. And this is when it's like, your drinking is no longer just your problem. Now you're ruining everybody else's night. This guy's up there giving the solo, and yes, he went along with it. He didn't make a big stink about it. He just played along with it, but it would have been better without Erika's big mouth interrupting everything. So after that, Erika, she gave a very drunk apology to, who did she apologize to? Oh, she gave an apology to Kathy. She gave a very drunk apology to Kathy. Something about, she doesn't show up to events, I guess, that Kathy invites her to because she doesn't want to show up with her scarlet letter. I guess she was talking about, I don't want to show up and everybody knows my problems and my issues and I don't want to take focus away from whatever you've got going on. And so here I come with all of my baggage and I just didn't want to do that to you and your children. So that's why I wasn't showing up. It's nothing personal. Please let Nikki and Paris know that it was never personal. It's just that and she just goes on and on and on. And I don't think Kathy could have cared. I don't even think anybody even cares or even noticed whether or not Erika showed up to these Hilton events. So after that, all the women get together and they talk about Erika's drinking and how out of control it is. Kyle refuses to acknowledge the reality of what's going on, which is like, this is getting a little bit out of hand. Erika is getting out of hand. Kyle's whole thing is, I don't want to label anybody. I don't want to diagnose anybody. And that Erika has the right to let loose because of all that she's gone through with, her husband and all of that, all the legal woes of that. Erika has the right to let loose. Okay, you can let loose, but can you let loose without, falling on your face? Can you let loose without taking the shine away from someone? Oh, that's another thing that they mentioned when Asher was singing, is that Erika misses the limelight, so she was probably feeling some kind of way that Asher was the one up there performing and everybody was enjoying it instead of her, because it was always her that was the performer of the group. So Kyle compares Erika to her sister, Kimberly, or sister Kim, and she's like, I didn't want people labeling my sister or diagnosing my sister, so I'm not going to do it to anybody else. On the other hand, Garcelle is like, Erika has an issue and we can't, tiptoe around this. We need to address this head on because we're her friends and we love her, so on and so forth. So this is something that needs to be addressed. This is a problem. And Kyle doesn't see it as a problem. Kyle just sees it as a woman who's gone through a lot, who's just, letting loose, having a good time, trying to forget about her problems, and we should all be in support of that. It's a lot. And I think that Kyle stands alone in that opinion. I think everybody else is worried about Erika. Everybody else sees this as a problem because it's a problem. It's embarrassing. It's not good for her. She's going to do something that she totally regrets, and it's not going to be pretty. And they need to prevent that from happening. So as Garcelle is leaving the party, she gets a chance to talk to Diana, and Diana apologizes to Garcelle for her own behavior at Garcelle's birthday party. And this is when Diana and Sutton had gotten into it. So she apologizes for getting into this horrible fight with Sutton and, kind of ruining the whole mood of Garcelle's party. And Diana wants to make it known, hey, I see that you like me. I think that you like me. And I think, the two of us were fine. We're good. I like you too. Basically, I guess what she was saying was, I accept you. I want to be your friend. I just can't hang with your girl Sutton. I think that's what she was just trying to say. You're good people. I see it for what you are and I like you. And, we can get along great, but I just don't see it for your friend Sutton. Moving on from there. Dorit now has become the comic relief for me on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Dorit, to me, is hilarious. Where Kyle is absolutely snooze fest, Dorit I cannot stop laughing when Dorit has a scene, because the stories that come out of her mouth are hilarious. So now the newest tale is that PK was stopped by the police because for some suspicious behavior. They stopped him and they suspected that he might have been drunk, and so they detained him. I don't even think that they arrested him. I have no idea, but he said he was in handcuffs, and the headlines on the Daily Mail said that he was arrested, and all the news reports were saying that he was arrested, but it seemed like more he was just detained. So they think that he might be drunk, and so they give him a breathalyzer test. He blew an 8.1. The legal limit is 0.8, and his was 8.1. And then when they made him blow through the breathalyzer again, it actually dropped to a 7 point something. So then after that, even though he wasn't technically, well, I guess he was technically over the limit when he blew the 8.1, and I guess they disregarded the 7, if this is even, any of this is even remotely true. So then they decide to drive him home, and he wasn't going to tell Dorit about it, but for the fact that he had to call Dorit for her to come pick up the car. And so that's how she found out about it. And so they're having a discussion, okay? Dorit and PK are having this discussion about what happened, these headlines. Okay, he made international headlines. And so Dorit is upset with PK because either he didn't tell her right away, or he didn't want to tell her, or I don't know what the situation was, because to me the story was so ridiculous. So I wasn't even paying attention to the details of it. But she was upset with him because he refused to tell her at the time that it happened. I guess he waited too long to tell her the whole story. I don't know. So she's chastising him about that. So it bothered PK so much. Okay, the headlines. I didn't even hear about this. Like, I never heard about Dorit's break in. I didn't hear about PK getting arrested. And some of these headlines, you just can't avoid them. As much as I don't want to read about what's going on with these reality TV stars in real time, sometimes you just can't avoid it. The headlines are just popping up everywhere. But I didn't see a single headline about Dorit and the break-in and the home invasion. I didn't see a single headline about PK at all. So while I'm watching the show, this is like all brand new to me. And so PK was so traumatized by being arrested and people talking about him that he decides to book it to London. So when he was gone in the UK because he was trying to run away from the press and run away from all of these negative news about him, this is when Dorit had the home invasion. So these people were working overtime, double time, trying to create enough drama for themselves to stay on the show, in my personal opinion. So he said that he only had a glass of wine. If all you had was a glass of wine and you blew right at the limit or right below the limit, what was the erratic or what was the suspicious behavior that made the cops stop you, PK? Like, what was going on? All you had was a glass of wine at your office party. But what was so suspicious about your driving or about your behavior that caused the cops to stop you? They never talked about that. So I don't know if this guy is like, if he's got friends in the police department and they stopped him because they're all in cahoots with this stupid story. I don't know what's going on, but in her confessional, Dorit was, I'm not even there yet. Let me save that for later. The whole story to me, it did not have the ring of truth to it. Yes, it was on the news, I guess, in LA. And yes, it was talked about in the Daily Mail. I was like waiting for them to do the pop-up of all the news articles because they'll do that on these reality TV shows. If a whole bunch of publications picked up the story, they'll show you all the different pop-ups. I didn't see that. It was just the Daily Mail and that was it. And he's from the UK and who knows if he's friends with the people that run the Daily Mail. I just have a hard time buying this story, but let's move on. So Erika, she's at home. Lisa Rinna has come over. She's doing something for her business. She has starting a hair business. She talks about how she has worn every single style. She has done it all when it comes to hair. So who's more of an expert about hair extensions, hairstyles, and all of that than Erika Jayne. So she's gone into the hair business. I think that is very good for her. Obviously whoever does her hair, maybe they're the one who's running the business and she's just the face of it all. I hope it does work out for Erika because Lord knows she needs the money. She needs to get back to the lifestyle that she previously had. I think Erika just cannot cope with, for 20 years, you were the arm candy of this multi-millionaire high-powered attorney in Beverly Hills. Okay, so you had all the doors open for you. And now you're barely making it, I guess. Who knows? So I really hope that this hair thing takes off for her. So Erika has a conversation with Rinna, and Rinna basically tells her, yeah, you got a problem. Okay. And, Rinna didn't sugarcoat it. She told her the what's up, straight no chaser. You have a problem and you need to take care of it. And Erika says, I can't go somewhere without having a cocktail. And yes, I'm on my medication. I think it's for her mental health issues. So she's on medication for that. But then she can't go to an event without having a cocktail. So the two are just not combining. So she's blaming it on the mixture of the medicine and the alcohol. And she does acknowledge that she does have a problem. And so it seems like we're finally making that turn around the bend to recovery, to her getting better and to her learning how to control her alcohol intake when she's in social situations. I don't think that anybody believes or thinks that Erika is the kind of person that just drinks by herself, drinks all the time, even when she's not at a social event. She seems like a social drinker because her really good friend, I forgot his name, her really good friend, stylist, manager, whoever he is that's always with her, he even said, you don't even like alcohol. You're not really an alcohol drinker. So she's doing all of this just to escape the pain. So it's not like this is her new lifestyle. This is her new thing. I don't think. It's just that she's going through a lot. Oh, she's going through a lot. She needs to release a little bit of steam, but she's catching it in time so that it doesn't become a habit. So moving on from there, we are with Garcelle. Sutton comes over. Oh, Sutton, that's another snooze fest for me right now. Sutton is boring as hell. When she's angry, the only time that Sutton is interesting is when she's beefing with somebody and they're kind of going toe to toe. And even with that, she's like the more boring of the two. Whoever she's arguing with or whoever she's beefing with, like when it was her and Erika Jane, Erika stole the show. When it was her and Diana, Diana stole the show. When it was her and Crystal, it was kind of a tie. But Sutton to me, not that interesting. And we all thought, well, I thought that when Sutton came on this franchise that she was going to bring it as far as, just the wealth, the richness. She does have a quirkiness to her. So she kind of brings that. And it was going to be, I thought it was going to be interesting to see her style. What does this woman do with all of her money? How does she spend her money? And mix that in with her quirkiness. I thought it was going to be a lot more interesting than what it actually is. So Sutton to me is a bit of a snooze fest. So she comes over to Garcelle's house. Garcelle tells her about the party. She says that Diana's house was beautiful. They talked about Erika's drinking. And then they talk about how Sutton was alone for Christmas because she tested positive for COVID. So she couldn't hang out with anybody. Absolutely nobody. She had to quarantine. Her ex-husband was off in Italy with the children and the new girlfriend. And so she kind of, she felt some kind of way, for Christmas that, your own family, your own kids can even be with you on Christmas because they're in Italy having a grand old time with their dad and most likely their dad's much younger girlfriend, even though I don't know who she is. Moving on from there. So here was some more comic relief with Sutton. So we're at Kyle's house. By the way, I know I'm on a anti-Kyle campaign. Believe it or not, I like Kyle. I do like her. I like all of these women. But Kyle to me is always falling short of keeping me interested. She's good with helping other people in their drama, but she has, and I don't want to say she doesn't have any drama because I don't think you have to have drama to be interesting, but she's got nothing about herself that remotely interests me. I think the last time I was interested in anything that Kyle was doing was probably when she was producing that show that was to mirror her life growing up. The show that her sister Kathy stopped talking to her over. So I think that maybe that's when Kyle to me was interesting. And of course she was interesting with Vanderpump. And of course she was a little bit more interesting with her sister Kim. But now when she doesn't really have anybody to spar with, it's kind of like, Kyle's house is boring. The way it looks on the outside, I don't get it. Mauricio is a real estate mogul in Beverly Hills, so they want us to believe. He is a real estate mogul. When you look at the net worth of the Real Housewives women, I think Kyle is up there above Vanderpump. I think she has more of a net worth than Vanderpump, obviously, because I think, her husband's business. But you would think that as a being married to a real estate mogul, you would pick a house much better. That house looks like it's from 1985. What is going on with Kyle and Mauricio? You are a real estate mogul. Why aren't you you should have the best house of all. But compare Kyle's house to Vanderpump's house. Come on, you can't. They're like completely from two different dimensions. So her house is boring inside and out. But Dorit made it interesting. So Dorit comes over and this scene was such a nothing scene to me, but it was funny as hell. Dorit comes over, and as soon as she comes in, she flops down on the couch. She's had like a really long, exhausting day, trying to, I guess, fight off all these headlines about PK being arrested, the criminal that he is. And so Dorit says, "Oh my God, these headlines are killing me." And Kyle goes, "Which headlines?" Kyle had no idea what the hell she was talking about. I mean, even Kyle couldn't even pick up what Dorit was trying to put down. Kyle had no idea that Dorit was talking about, these headlines about PK. And so, Dorit goes on to explain about PK and his arrest. And I was like, Kyle, I don't know if you did this on purpose or what, but that was comic gold. So Dorit says in her confessional, she's all like, oh, everybody's going to be asking questions about these headlines and everybody wants to know what's going on about PK and the arrest. Who, Dorit? Who is asking questions? The headlines, I'm assuming, occurred before your home invasion. But then when the season started, the only thing that people talked about with you was the home invasion. How come this is the first time that we're hearing about PK if everybody's talking about it? You have to ward off all of these inquiries and questions about PK and the arrest and how much time is he going to serve? Are they going to throw the book at him? Are they going to put PK under the jail? So she says that it's just been a lot for her to deal with all of this press or whatever she's talking about. This was a very boring scene. I don't know what they were talking about. After I had my really good chuckle when Kyle was like, what headlines? After I had that, I couldn't even pay attention. I have no idea what they were talking about. Something about somebody named Mo. I have no idea. Moving on to Sutton. Sutton goes on a date with her Bumble guy, Sanjit. They go on their date. Evidently, this is not their first date. They've been on plenty of dates, but not plenty, but they've been on a couple of dates before. And as I watched this scene, it was another snooze fest. I could barely stay awake watching this. The most interesting thing about this whole scene was that her foot began to itch and she was trying to scratch it. And it wasn't even trying to scratch it discreetly. She was like all up under the table trying to scratch her foot. So there's no chemistry between these two people. Absolutely zero chemistry. The conversation was lackluster. He was trying to engage her in some conversation about music. She was busy trying to scratch her foot. He looked bored. I looked bored. Moving on. So Erika, she goes out to dinner with Garcelle. And when they sit down, they order their drinks. Erika initially ordered a chamomile tea, and the waitress told her, well, we don't serve hot drinks in this area or something like that. And so she goes from a chamomile tea to a cognac. And even Garcelle was like, how do you go from trying to be on the straight and narrow by, drinking tea or something, and then you go straight to cognac? So that kind of was like, oh, is Erika really trying to reduce her alcohol intake or what's going on here? So the conversation centered around Sutton. Basically, Erika was telling Garcelle, Sutton's a liability. We all, we like you, I like you, or whatever, but Sutton is a big liability for you. She is what did she call her? She is the master of her own disaster. And Garcelle is like, I don't understand why people have her for Sutton. I don't understand why people don't like her. What is the issue with Sutton? Y'all need to go get a life, get you some business, and keep Sutton out of your mouths and don't talk about her. And Erika was like, she's a big girl. You don't have to defend her all the time. Okay. You don't have to defend her all the time. And she knows exactly what she's doing, as in, I guess Garcelle kind of sees Sutton as this weak, defenseless little friend of hers that she has to always protect by this, den of hyenas or something. And Erika's trying to tell her she's not as weak and innocent as you think. She's quite manipulative. She can stand on her own 2 feet. She has her own backbone. She has her own ideas, her own thoughts. You don't have to defend her all the time. And sometimes you defend her to the point where, we start questioning your behavior. We start questioning you, the way you go so hard for her when she comes after us. So that's where the episode ended. That is my little review of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It was a little nothing episode, to tell you the truth. Nothing much happened. I did enjoy Dorit's lies, though. I'm pretty sure PK got arrested because they want so hard for us to believe that PK was arrested. Now he's got this criminal record, and then they should be interesting enough now to stay on the show, but no one's talking about it. No one cares. And like I said, he probably knows people in the police department. He probably knows people at the Daily Mail, and they probably all are in cahoots with one another, and they concocted this crazy story. How do you have one glass of wine but then you get stopped by the cops? What were you doing that made them stop you? That is my review. Who knows? Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, please subscribe, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.